Welcome to With You Podcast.
where we explore relationships and life transitions.
I'm David.
And I'm Tara. And today we're going to have some questions from our own children.
Yeah, we had this interesting idea, right? That we wanted to see what did they want to know from us.
Yeah, well, all four of our kids and our two extra kids are spouses of our two oldest.
Yeah, bonus kids.
Yeah, so our six kids really are all in their 20s.
Yep.
So it's kind of a unique time where they're young adults, and we thought we should give them the opportunity to ask questions maybe that they never got to ask us.
Yeah, and I love that show where you would see that with the little kids. The kids say the darndest things back in the early TV days. And so I was excited and then got nervous.
Well, because we said we're open to anything. You guys can ask us whatever you want. So we sent out a message to all six of them and said, okay, we're curious about what you might want to know from us. Like, what have we never told you? Or it could be advice, or it could be a story, or it could be, but we kind of got the same response from all of them.
Yeah, we did. They all were just like, well, if we were curious, we would have asked you already.
Right.
So like, that's not helpful at all.
We were kind of surprised that they thought they already had asked anything they were interested in knowing. So either...
Which I think is great. That means we're just totally open and vulnerable as parents. But I think it was just kind of, I don't want to do this.
I'm not sure what it was, but we did with a little bit more explanation, we did get them to participate. I think we at first envisioned this like we would all get on a call and they would ask us questions that we had never seen before, and we would spontaneously have to answer whatever it was, like truth or dare.
That was too scary.
That was scary, I think, for everybody involved.
I know for us, it's like, I want to be vulnerable and open, but I'm not sure that much.
Yeah, so they all agreed to send in questions, written questions, and weren't super excited about asking them on air or being identified as to who asked what. So the way this is going to work is that we have seen them because they sent them in and we typed them up. So we've seen them, but we have not talked about it between the two of us.
No, which makes me nervous as well. And we're not going to attribute any questions to any person.
No.
They'll just be, we have these general questions.
We have a list.
And we'll go from there.
We have a list, and we're going to go one by one. And David and I do not know how this is going to go. So
I know. The first one was like, well, not the first one, but the one we put first is a hard one, I think. And it is, what is something you are glad you said no to or turned down? And I don't know about you, but for me, that was hard because I think I must not say no a lot because I'm like, I'm not sure what that is.
Well, we both, we're both similar that way. We don't say no enough, probably.
Like hey, do you want to do a podcast? Probably should have been no.
Yeah, here we are.
And yet here we are. I think for me, I had to go all the way back to the mid 90s to think about something I kind of am glad I said no to. And
what was that?
It was, so I was just finishing grad school and looking for jobs. We were early pregnant with our first child and thinking through where we were going to go, and had someone that I sought out for mentorship about business and having a child come, I needed to make money. Mm-hmm. I'd been in school for a long time. And so had this offer to work for a thing called an internet company. and this was 1995 where I had just got a computer to work. And it would take like 24 hours to run statistics. And it was like, I don't know what an internet company is. And it was just, I was like, no. Now that company did really, really well.
It's a wildly successful company.
Our life financially would have been very different, but it would have changed the trajectory of our lives. And so I'm kind of happy where we are now. And I'm glad I said no to that or turned that opportunity down.
Yeah. It's easier with this much retrospect to be able to say you're glad it turned out differently.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't think of anything big like that. I honestly, there's not many big things I've said no to because I don't know if I don't know. But what I did think about this question is that I have gotten a lot better at saying no to things that just are too much because I do tend to get over my head in the
Yeah.
things I commit to,
Yep.
overcommitted and over-involved, and then I get tired, and then I get resentful, and then I still say yes, and I'm more tired.
Yep. And then your family gets tired and resentful.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I've gotten better lately, and maybe you can tell me if you agree, at just saying no to they're smaller things, but invitations to events or things, even with people I like, but just it's too much. And I've learned also I don't have to give a detailed explanation. I can just say no.
No, I think it's realizing we have capacity. Like you have a capacity, and it's an amazing capacity. You can do a lot of things, but you don't necessarily need to. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of you of recently saying no to prioritize, and it kind of saying no to something prioritizes other things, gives space for kind of more in depth in other things.
Yeah. That's the point.
And I'm hoping it's me. So that
Yeah, well, again,
not
here
that
we
you're
are.
saying no, not that you're saying no. Don't say no to me. Say no to other people. So the another question was, now think back to when you were 21.
That's a long way.
It's a long time ago. So what would 21-year-old David and Tara be most surprised by if they would see your lives today?
So when we were 21, we were dating and engaged, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. What would those kids, those little baby David and Tara, be surprised about our lives now? I can go first.
Yeah,
if
why
you
don't
want.
you go first?
Okay, so my first one right away is that I'm still living in Wheaton. I was sure
fair.
that I would get you to see the light and want to live where the sun shines. So I think my 21-year-old self would be like, "What? She's still living in Wheaton? What happened there?" We lived around the world and we came back. So
Yeah.
I'd be surprised about that.
Yeah, that would that makes sense to me. I think you're still surprised you're living in Wheaton even now.
Well, no, I made a choice.
Yeah.
But that actually comes in later, one of the later
Okay.
questions. But I have two more.
Okay, keep
And then
going.
you save yours.
Yeah.
I'd also be surprised that we sent all four of our kids to Wheaton College.
Yeah, how did that happen?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We up until it happened, we didn't think that was going to be financially possible for lots of reasons, but it happened, and our last one's about to graduate, and it's
Crazy.
all God's. It really feels like it was God's plan, and I am still surprised about that.
And pleased. I mean, it's
so
an
pleased.
amazing blessing, but yeah, how did that happen?
Yeah, and the other thing, which I imagine is probably one of yours
I
too,
only have one.
is how much we're traveling.
Oh no, that's not mine.
No?
No.
See, I think 21-year-old David would have been shocked at how many countries you'd been to now. You had, when we were dating, I was lucky to get you on the west side of the Mississippi River.
Yeah,
in the
there's no
US.
reason. I mean, Michigan is God's country, so coming to Illinois was hard.
So that's
Yeah.
really surprising.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's fair that
Okay.
we travel so much.
Yeah.
Mine is, and I'm gonna read what I wrote down. I am surprised that I am an academic, a full professor, Fulbrighter at Wheaton College. Yes. The 21-year-old me who didn't go to class, who barely passed Wheaton undergrad, is now an academic, full professor. All of that. Still, it blows my mind. I'm like, how is that me?
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
I didn't think of that because honestly, I mean, that is surprising because you did not love being a student when
No.
we were together, but I knew you
now-
had that in you. I knew you were a smart guy. So
Yeah. Well, but that I'm never going to graduate now.
no,
So
you're perpetually in
I'm
school
perpetually
now.
in school. So that would shock 21-year-old
That
David.
would have probably knocked you over.
Yeah, it would be like, that's some other David Van Dyke, because I was pretty sure I was going to play Major League Baseball
Yeah.
or work for a Major League Baseball company. So shocked that I'm still at Wheaton. I didn't think I was going to graduate, but I didn't realize I would and then come back and keep working. So, all right.
Okay.
We've shocked ourselves. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. I hope the surprises keep coming.
All right. So now the next group of questions are all about our couple relationship.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
Sure.
All right. What is one of your favorite decisions that you have made as a couple? So,
yeah, I wonder if it's the same one.
so I'll
Do you
go
want to go
first.
first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my favorite decision as a couple was for us to plan, hope, pray to have kids young. So that we could be young when they're adults. Like now, I don't feel quite as young as I imagined back then, but kind of that life planning of wanting to be fit, wanting to be healthy when our kids were in their 20s and 30s, and I'm just thankful that God allowed us to have that. So
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah.
Because I'm really happy about that one too.
Oh, good.
Because that's what we kind of looked far into the future and what did we want our lives to look like when we were in our 40s and 50s, and we're living it
And
now.
we are. And I think that's a strength of our relationship, of perspective, of really kind of taking that bigger perspective to help us make decisions.
Yeah, to do
in
the
moment.
hard stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we'll talk about that too. So you might be surprised at my answer to this question.
Uh-oh.
One of my favorite decisions, contrary to what I'm always complaining about, is moving back to Wheaton.
What? No. What in the world? You have to explain, girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you finished all your grad school stuff, we were in one of those unique transition times of life where we had to decide, like, we get to choose now where we're going to pursue looking for a job and settling down.
Yeah.
And we made that choice together, and we had to decide what's important to us. I mean, something obviously important to me is sunshine and,
Yeah.
water and color.
Yeah.
But more important to me was being near family and making a decision to plant ourselves in a place where we'd be close to our kids' grandparents and, build a community. And so we made the choice together to come back here, and we're still here, and our kids are rooted, and
Yeah, I get it. It's a little shocking because it's both like torture to you and joy, all wrapped up in a Midwest hug.
Yes.
So what is one thing your spouse changed your mind about over time? I can't even read that question.
So what is one thing your spouse changed your mind about over time? This one was tricky.
This might, I'm not sure.
Did you have a thought right away?
I did have a thought right away.
You mine was hard to come by, so you go first.
I don't want to say it because you're gonna smile and realize you were right.
See, this is the problem. We're both pretty strong-minded firstborns.
I like being right. It would be my need and our need as a couple and as parents for more consistency and structure in our family life and our relationship. I think that's the biggest thing for me that has been open. So it's not my natural
I didn't
bent.
know I had changed your mind about that.
Yeah. Well, even like getting ready for podcasts, I'm like, okay, so what are the main points? And I'm like, who am I? Like, why am I asking for structure? And you're like, it'll be fine. And I'm like, what has happened to you? Like, I don't know, but I do. I fought it for a while. Like, I think that was a fight for us of like, be more spontaneous. And why do we need to like have a budget? And now I see the benefits to a little more structure and consistency. So I feel like I've been allowed you to influence me there.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's
Now,
fair to say I've come in your direction a bit too. I'm a lot looser with my structure than I used to be.
Yeah.
A lot more relaxed.
So what was your answer after you thought a while?
So I honestly, I don't know if there's much you've changed my mind about. So I was thinking maybe my behavior.
You've gotten a lot more
Because
fun.
I do really like have strong feelings about the way I do things and stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think I'm rigid about it, but
No. So the question would be: Are you open to my influence?
well, yeah. I mean, I think we've both influenced each other, but like thinking about something that you changed my mind about, you've helped me learn things.
Yeah. What about baseball?
Well, actually, it's on the. Did you peek?
I did not, but
I didn't say baseball first. I said one thing you've changed my behavior about is TV watching. In my family, TV was very limited, and honestly, when you travel, I almost never even turn it on. But you have changed maybe my mind and my behavior that it's fun entertainment together. We do a lot of just when we have time to relax together, we'll follow a show or something.
And it's usually British comedy TV.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But I did say, I even wrote this down, that you maybe changed my mind of seeing baseball as an enjoyable sport.
that does my heart so good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
So,
for
whatever that's worth.
Yeah. Okay. I still don't like the to-do list, by the way. Just.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I'm aware.
What is one of the greatest risks you have taken as a couple?
Should I go first?
Uh-huh.
Again, for me, this was more of it was a moving one again. So for me, when we finished your master's program in California,
Yep.
and we moved to Indiana pregnant and without even the hint of a job, that was pretty risky. I'm sure our parents were praying really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's remarkable.
Yeah. We were young and trusting and honestly
Foolish.
Well, no, I mean, we very thoughtfully did that too. We prayed about our go-to about big decisions like that is because it wasn't really what I wanted to do either. I was really happy to live in California.
Yeah, there's a lot of tears that you had.
Yeah, but we spent, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks not talking about it, praying about it separately and coming back together and saying, what do you think? And we both felt like it was what we should do was move towards where you were going to go to your PhD programs, which is a whole other story. But that felt really risky, and yet it worked out all right. It was kind of a nice interlude in our life.
Well, I had two, and that was one of it. I have California to Indiana because we didn't have money. We didn't have really a plan. You were pregnant. We didn't have insurance. I mean, all of it, it was risky.
Yeah.
And yet it wasn't a sense of panic or unsettledness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the weird thing.
I know.
Like,
I don't
how
remember.
did our parents not lose their ever loving minds?
Well, they were very generous in letting us do our thing, but I don't remember us being anxious about it. We just did it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about that. We had to find our apartment by stopping at the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We moved to a town we'd never seen before. Yeah.
That was risky. Do you have any other riskies?
Nope. That was the big one.
Yeah. For me, there was the financial risk of taking our whole family to Australia. That I thought, but it was about what's a priority for us. We didn't have the money. We refinanced the house because we wanted to take the kids.
Let's explain why.
To visit your family.
Yeah. So my mom, who's from Australia, all her family was still in Australia, and her parents were, and I can't remember if it was my grandmother's 90th birthday or their anniversary.
Grandy's 90th.
Yeah. So it was at a time when we knew we had limited time left to have our kids meet them. And they had come to the United States for our wedding, and I think for one of my other brother's weddings, but we hadn't seen them since then, and they weren't going to travel again.
No.
So to take a family of 6 to Australia is, and especially in the financial state that we were living in, was an enormous undertaking, but we felt completely sure that it was the right thing to do.
Well, and we did that. I mean, so I thought that was a risk, but it was so beneficial because it highlighted what was a priority in our lives. And it's family, like you said, moving to Wheaton again was a commitment guided by our principles of wanting to be involved in family. And all the travel we did, going to Colorado, going to Michigan, we constantly moved around with our young kids because it was important, and the risks in terms of time and finance were minimal compared to the benefits. But I look back and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. We spent money we didn't have, but we don't regret that.
No.
Yeah, that was a good one. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yay. I love when I have an idea you don't have. So how about you read the next one?
What was the hardest thing you've had to work through together in your relationship?
Yeah, this one came really quick to me.
I think we probably have the same time period in mind.
Yeah, it was grad school.
Yeah.
And for me, it was going through, I'll get emotional, going through the miscarriages we had. And because I mean, for me, the painful part was not being there for you emotionally. not being available and just kind of turning inward and putting my head down and doing what needed to happen. But it ended up abandoning you.
Yeah.
And that was hard. It still gets me emotional.
I know. Kids, these questions are not easy. But no, I put the same thing right away because that was, we still call those the dark years.
Yeah.
Grad school was hard enough, but we went through some hard loss at the same time, and the loss of at least one of your grandparents during that time, like
That
losses
too.
of our own babies,
Yeah.
loss of your grandparents that we couldn't travel to be there for. And we were so immersed in our own stuff. The hardest part was the not connecting.
Yeah.
Because I was drowning in
Yeah.
like babies and loss and not having friends in that town. And you were working so hard. It was the disconnect.
Yeah, and it wasn't a matter of not loving each other, but we both have this style of let's put our heads down and go. But I think it was hard, and it took a lot of work to
Yeah.
kind of move from that and break some of those patterns.
There were times both of us were like, okay, I'm having trouble and I need help. And usually in a relationship, we've had times where one's struggling and the other one can kind of
Yeah.
be the one that's up or help in some way. We were both not able to help. Like I needed help at home and you were just not, you were working until midnight every night. And
Yeah, the picture I
so
have.
you're like, should I stop grad school?
Yeah,
And we're like,
that's-
no, we don't want to draw this out any longer. We just plowed through it.
and
But it was hard.
we made the decision to go faster. So I doubled the effort to get done with my doctoral program quicker. And the picture I have in my head for both of us was like lifeguard training when the person that you're trying to be in support
Yeah.
is panicking, and so you have to kind of push them away before you come back again. And it felt like that, and it felt horrible.
Yeah.
So-
That was the hardest 3 years of our relationship to date so far.
Yeah. So that's the answer to that one, kids. All right. So now we're going to move from our couple relationship to having kids and questions about parenting and our relationship around parenting. So, how did you both cultivate good friendships during the years of having small children?
Yeah. So,
Great
I mean,
question.
it is a good question. And it's one that even the families that I work with struggle with a lot of finding like-minded people to hang out with. And it's not easy. But for us, and that started in those years when we were in those grad school years. And I think everywhere we've been, one of our go-to things has been to join a church,
Yep.
first of all, like find a community in a church and then join a small group or a community group, like a smaller gathering
Yeah.
within the church that develops friendships. And usually sometimes they can be people across generations, but
It's
often
rarely,
they're grouped
yeah.
together in sort of people in the same life cycle.
Yeah.
And that really was a foundational thing for us making friends.
Yep. I mean, everybody's a bit goofy. And especially when you have young kids, you're sleep deprived, you're goofy. And I think you and I talked through of like, we're just going to commit to this group rather than do we like the people in the group or not, which we did. If you're listening, we liked you. But there's a part of just committing to it is like, we only have so much energy. So let's commit to this for a certain amount of time and invest. And it was really helppful. I also put down just other parents during similar activities. Not deep friendships, but sitting in the stands, you're there all the time.
Yeah,
you
in
end
the
up having
school years.
friendships in the school years. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that was the other thing that I added. But our church community, small group, going through life together with the shared faith was cornerstone to kind of good friendships.
Yeah. I think our deepest friends have been made in our church groups and our neighborhood. Now that we've been in our neighborhood for 25 years, I can say like some of the people we can still see if we look down the street are some of our closest friends.
Yeah.
Partly we had the shared, sports activities and things. So we got to know each other sitting on baseball fields and whatever. But then sometimes we actually sort of like pursued that friendship. We thought, we like hanging out with these people. And I did write down too that we had people over for dinner, even with a messy house. I think that's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think people think I've got to have it all together. I can't, compare my lifestyle to somebody else's or my house. And there's a lot of pressure in these, especially where we live in these, affluent suburbs where people feel like they need to have a facade of having it all together. And you just got to let that go and have people. And I struggled with that. I mean, I will say, I struggled with being open to having people over when I felt like things were a mess.
Well, our kids and our neighbors know, like they would know if I was washing my car.
They knew your dad was
my
coming.
dad was coming over. If we around the house,
if I got the vacuum out, the kids said, "Who's coming over?"
Yep. And so we did. I mean, we realized it's not going to be perfect, and yet we did also try to crunch and make it acceptable. But I love when people call their house cozy or lived in. I know that's code for messy, but it also, I like going over to a house that's not immaculate, because I'm like, ooh,
you live here.
Yeah, that you're spending time here, and
and you feel comfortable enough with me to not feel like it has to look perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to sit in peanut butter, but it's okay.
Crunch Cheerios on the floor.
It's okay to have stuff strewn around. Is that a word? Strewn?
Sure.
All right. Next question. What was sweetest about your years with small children?
I love this one. I don't know if I can even list this one without tears.
Oh, go ahead, honey.
You go first.
No, I think it's good for you to share your emotion. All right. So for me, I did 3. I did cuddles. I loved the cuddles of the young kids. Bath time. It was just soothing and also organized chaos. And occasionally you lost some running naked down the street.
Only once.
And then the other piece that kind of was sweet.
Oh, and it wasn't me running down the street. It was the child in a bath towel.
Oh, that's right.
Who heard your train and you came home from work.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, just to be clear. And then the last one was just the uninhibited play and exploration that young kids do. I'm fascinated by it. It gives me life and joy. So I think those were the 3 sweetest things about the youngins.
I think mine were really similar, because I said actually the specific moment was reading to them after bath time. They have bath time, they splash and are crazy, which is one of my favorite pieces of parenting advice. If things are crazy, just add water. Like
yes,
really, the sensory, the whatever, the soothing. So bath time was we did it almost every night. It was part of the wind down routine for our kids.
Yeah,
and then they'd dry off, you'd get them in their jammies, and they'd sit on your lap with their clean smelling little head, and you read them a story, and they're just snuggled in. Our kids could just read as long as we would read to them. Oh,
I can still smell their heads now that you're talking about that.
I know.
It's
See,
just like,
that's the part I had to gather myself. I couldn't say that without crying, because it really...
Yeah, miss it. And now that they're in their 20s, we ask them to cuddle with us, sit on our lap, read a story.
No.
They don't smell the same either.
Yeah, no.
Not okay.
But my second, no, let's just move on. I don't think they'll appreciate that.
Yeah, probably not.
My second part of that was their little voices asking questions, and partly that's that curiosity that when they're little, just like they just want to know about everything. And it was so fun to take them on adventures. Anything could be an adventure.
Yeah.
A walk around the block where they find bugs, and they, but I love taking them to the zoo and the aquarium and the museums and the arboretum, and just watching them learn stuff and absorb it.
Yeah. It's nice to see that we're on the same page after all these years. What is the best part of having adult children? Nothing. All right, let's move on.
Oh no. We love it.
I
can't speak for you. Okay, I'll speak for myself first. I love where we are now with 6 kids all in their 20s. I just think it's so fun to watch people we only raised 4 of them, but it's fun to watch them all grow and develop into these young adults who want to be a productive member of society and help change things that are broken. And I just love their the things that they're excited about. I also love that they all love to eat good food. I love having a good meal with our adult kids.
Yep. That
is just one of the most enjoyable things, and seeing them choose to be friends with each other.
Yeah. The big overarching ones are similar. Watching them and encouraging them love well. and then seeing them take initiative in relationship with each other, but also with us. It's a new, we're still parents of them, but it's a more mutual, curious, and it's a chosen relationship versus a have to relationship. And maybe they still feel they have to, but it feels more mutual. And then just the learning, like I learned so much from them. I'm going to just go through a quick list of the things that I
Oh, okay. That was one of the questions too. So
okay, well,
what we've learned from them.
I'm going to do that now because
Okay.
I'm the dad.
Let's just do it.
Yeah. So learning from them, new sports like appreciation of pole vaulting and ultimate frisbee and rugby, and it's just been fascinating to learn about new sports that aren't what I grew up with. Food science. Who knew that food was a science and had neurobiological connections and just all of that. Tech as a system, technology as a system. And that fascinates me. It's not my skill set, but it's really interesting how thoughtful they are about gift giving, and seeing that process. We do an exchange at Christmas of draw names, and the fun of watching them learn and know about each other and give gifts. That's an acknowledgement of understanding them is beautiful. Linguistic discussions. I feel dumber or stupider after some of those conversations, but it's a great learning opportunity. Appreciating the great outdoors. We went camping up in the UP of Michigan, Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Not our jam, but we learned about how to like use a drop toilet and not shower for a week, and it was
cook over a fire
and eat raw fish and all of it was supposed to be
didn't
cooked.
eat it raw.
Well, it was supposed to be cooked.
The nice smoked salmon up there. Yeah.
And then lastly, just appreciation for art from especially our two youngest and some of our our bonus kids, the art and the human form and creativity. It just fascinated by that process. So I love
and music and writing and
all of it. There's it's
dog
like,
shows.
yeah, and it's like a renaissance at our renaissance conversation of we go from science to art to metaphysics to scubalon. That's the Greek for poop. All of it. So anyway, we got off track there, but that's part of the best
we
things.
can just put that question alongside the other one with having adult children, because they did ask us also, what is the most valuable thing you've learned from your kids?
Yeah.
And I guess it could be at any stage of life. There's so much. We feel like they're so much smarter than we were.
Yes.
That's one thing we've learned.
I
We
don't think
thought
it's
we were smart until
I don't think it's a feeling. I think they are objectively smarter.
They outsmarted us pretty quick.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned from my kids is to question things that we've taken for granted just because we've always done things a certain way as a culture and a family system and all of that.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty good at looking outside the system and going like, even as simple as, why do we have lawns?
Yeah.
You know, like I've never thought to question that. It's just everybody has green grass and you get people that, pull the weeds and they've had me even questioning that. I'm thinking about meadowscaping and things I never thought were a thing, native plants and sustainability. And they've opened my mind to a lot of things, even language. Like I will not say the terms, but some terms I grew up just as part of
that
the
may
language.
have been offensive.
Right. And my kids go, Mom, do you know where that came from? And I had never considered it. And when they opened my eyes, I changed my behavior.
Yeah.
So, they've taught me to question, and partly because all of them seem to really love learning just for learning's sake.
Yeah.
I always thought of learning as just task oriented. Like I need to learn this for this purpose. So I'm going to, I'm interested in reading and learning, but they really take that to a whole other level.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll be talking on and on about the chemistry of tea leaves and of bourbon or of all these. And I'm like, where did you learn that? And they're like, there's YouTube, and they spend hours just discovering things.
Yeah. Good liberal arts education.
Yeah.
But it's overwhelming. Yeah. And for me, other than content, just from my kids, I've learned to slow down before responding, that there's a power to kind of my words, my feelings. And they've been able to speak into that. And it's just like, oh yeah, I have to, what's the intent that I have to communicate rather than just reacting. So I'm thankful for those knuckleheads. What about parenting was harder than you expected, and what was easier?
So for me, what was hard, the first thing that pops to my mind for what was harder than I expected, because I really wanted to be a parent. I never questioned. That's another thing. I just kind of bought the whole line. You graduate college, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house,
Yeah.
So I didn't really question whether I would or I wouldn't. But I really desired to be a parent.
Yeah.
And I didn't really worry about it being hard. But what surprised me was in the beginning years, especially the baby years, it felt like I lost my identity for a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because a lot of us put our identity into kind of, our productivity and our, you do something that has a obvious result.
Yeah.
And parenting, especially in the early years, and especially when we were, you were working hard at grad school, I was kind of felt like I was home alone a lot. And just doing the same things over and over and over, over and over. And it was never, ever, ever done. It about made me crazy.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like, what do you mean you have to eat again?
Oh, I said that all the time. You mean you need another meal?
That's
You
right.
need another snack? Yeah. So that was harder on me than I expected. I'm also by nature an introvert. So for a mom with 4 young kids, you don't get any alone time.
No.
There is no such thing.
Well, when you go to the bathroom, there's alone
There's
time.
lots of little hands under the door if the door is so lucky as to be shut.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I lost personal space and alone time and then just awareness of who I was, or just margin, I guess, to retreat and to regroup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, the hard part was not prepared for the heartache of seeing it and letting them hurt, of wanting to, I believe in optimal frustration, and yet living it out was so hard. I remember us having times we'd be in the bedroom crying if like either one of us was trying to encourage the other. And it was nice that we had each other, because it's like, no, this needs to happen. And it's just, you feel broken.
Yeah.
When they're hurting, from little ones to little hurts to big ones and big hurts.
Yeah.
It's hard to just be there and not wanting and trying to fix it. I think we're both fixers.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that was the hard thing about parenting. Sometimes you can't fix it, and sometimes you shouldn't fix it.
Yeah. Sometimes you can, but you shouldn't. That's the worst.
Yeah, that is the worst. Well, what was easier than you thought?
Easier? Honestly, I think the teenage years were easier.
Ah.
Everybody tells you, and I hate this, but a lot
Hate's
of parents,
not the right word.
Oh, I know it's a strong word. We didn't let our kids say that word. It's not a good word. But when people tell parents in the thick of that early stage, oh, you think this is hard, just wait till they're teen. I just think that's a really tough thing to hear when you're struggling. And so it felt like, well, that's gonna, I don't know how I'm going to survive the teenage years, because there's such a mythology about that being the worst part of parenting and kids being so hard to handle. And I mean, it had its challenges for sure, but I found it fun. I found it like really freeing. Like they were so funny and so, it was messy, and that's not my favorite either when there's not always answers to things, but they were, I don't know, they were just really interesting people. And we could talk through things, even if it was hard. They could tell me what was going on. And that was more fun.
I think we understood development, which gave us a little less pressure around adolescence. And so for me, the thing that was easier was enjoying each developmental stage and looking forward to it. But then also looking for the pieces to enjoy, right? Of like, you can enjoy something, but sometimes you have to really look for it. And the assumption, like you're saying, of, the teenage years were great. Well, and we looked for those positive moments because you can be problem saturated.
Yes.
And
Yeah. And there were times, when the boys were in their early teens where boys don't talk much and you don't get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And you do have to hold on to the shining moments where they do something thoughtful or they tell you something that was special
or you have to learn to speak boy. And bumping into you. And I had to explain, that means I love you, Mother. I'm so thankful for all that you provide and sacrifice for me.
Yes. The interpretation helped a lot.
Yeah. So I think learning to have a teenage interpreter. But the easier part was, I think for both of us, we enjoyed the development. Each stage, there was something to enjoy and focus on.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to look harder for it than others.
Okay, so we're on what's something you noticed in the way you were raised that you changed in raising us? Ooh-wee.
So we can offend both our parents and our kids in this answer.
Yeah, this was kind of tough. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that you choose to do that are different just because we're building our own way of doing it. But the first one for me was, and I don't know if this is a function partly of the time that it was, but in my childhood, corporal punishment was still a thing.
Yeah.
There were spankings, and it wasn't just in my family. At the school, you could be called to the principal's office to get an actual spanking. Like the culture around that has changed a lot.
Yeah.
But that was what I was taught was the expected way to discipline your kids.
Yeah.
Don't spare the rod, spoil the, it was the solution. Yeah. So we thought that's what we had to do. And we tried it, with our firstborn, sorry.
Yeah.
But very, very briefly, because we both said this does not feel right.
No. And
for us, it didn't feel appropriate.
Right.
So even though that was the only thing we'd been taught, we both said, we're not going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. But it didn't mean that there was no discipline.
No, not at all. I think we were still pretty structured and pretty strict.
Yeah. Our children would say we're pretty strict.
I think so. But not with
corporal punishment.
No.
But there was consequences. There was praise when needed to strengthen a pro-social behavior. But yeah, and going through a developmental program together helped too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think inform us that there were other solutions rather than just one tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
For me, it's back to what I've been influenced by you. We've had more structure and consistency than my growing up. We were kind of free range children. And there was a function to that of lots of different things. I mean, we're in a small town, so you could just kind of wander around and come home when the bell rang. And, but there was a lot of flexibility. And I think we provided a little more structure, a little more consistency. My siblings and I would say, we could get away with things with mom and, just tears and sorry, mom. We could get her to be a little more lenient, and we've done that differently.
Yeah. And I'd say we probably met in the middle because my dad was extremely structured, and I think we've kind of both moderated the way we grew up and met in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been a strength. I think we've been open to influence of each other and trying to figure out how are we going to do this based on the default modes that we came from and build on the strengths of it. And
put away the things that we didn't want to repeat.
Yeah. And do our best and realize you just have to be good enough, as Donald Winnicott says, good enough parenting. If you don't want to be perfect. I send my mom that Mother's Day card every year.
Yes,
thanks for being a good enough mom.
She takes that as a compliment now.
Now she does when I gave her the citation. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. So the kids now ask us, and I would like to hear them answer this question. I think that would be interesting.
I think that would be more fair.
But they say, is there anything you regret or cringe at looking back about the way you parented us? And what would you change about it now?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. When I look back, the first thing I think that I would change is that I was always in a hurry. I feel like wrangling 4 kids, I feel like I was always yelling, who doesn't have their shoes on? We got to get out the door. I remember a lot of moments like that where I was kind of pushing them to keep moving, and that you have to generally get to school on time and stuff. But just that general kind of keep pushing, don't take time to stop and play with the worm every time we're walking down the sidewalk.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So maybe a little impatience and stuff with them, just exploring that I regret. I wish I had been more relaxed about that. And then worrying in their school years, really feeling beholden to the school and sports schedule too much.
Yeah.
Thinking we had to have perfect attendance, which, we didn't have perfect, but we were, you show up and the sports, where we live, the sports go all through the summer. So we would not have family vacations sometimes because we thought they had to be in all the things. And
now looking back,
I wish we had relaxed on that,
Yeah. I put down advanced placement classes starting with in elementary school in the PACE or whatever it's called, that it's getting caught up in that excellence push. Didn't do our kids any favors. I mean, they got credit towards their college, but that wasn't worth the pressure rather than just kind of enjoying education. And helping them learn education rather than pushing for excellence and pushing for all the best. So, I mean, I think excellence is important, but I think it was a response to cultural pressures, like you're saying, more than, and us. I mean, you and I are wound.
Yeah, we tend to be achievers too, so we get caught up in that pretty easily.
Yeah, so that's my regret of getting caught up. I think it's the same as yours.
Yeah, one extra one that I put too was being too protective sometimes. I didn't allow them. I really didn't want them to, as a parent, you don't want them to get hurt. I was even afraid for them to cross the biggest street near us on their way to school.
Yeah.
So I think I might have held them back in some ways. I'm still afraid for them to drive sometimes just because of experiences I've had with people that have had big tragedies. It kind of are those haunting things.
That's the hard part of parenting, right? Because we've seen bad things. We've had stories. We've lived through the dangers. So we see the threat that the child doesn't see. And how do you live responsibly but not be driven by fear? And I think that's a constant tension for parents. And if you come from a background of trauma, of course you're going to be hyper aware and try to minimize all the possible hurts because you see it as loving and caretaking. There's downsides to that, and needing to let children eat dirt, fall down, cook worms, all of those things, cross the street. I mean, we have crazy stories of kindergarten and following the school bus, just all those weird.
We did. We
Do you want to tell that story?
When our firstborn went to kindergarten for the first time, which was only half-day kindergarten, but he got picked up by the big yellow school bus in front of the house, and we promptly got in the car and followed the school bus to the school.
Because you know why?
Because
you can't trust those drivers.
Well, you just don't know.
Yeah.
It's not about the driver. It's like he's going to get off the school bus in this new place, and it was hard. It was letting go is a hard part of parenting all the time.
Yeah. And we've grown in that. All right. So this is kind of moving. We've talked about the past. Now we're in the present. And the question is, Tara, what thoughts and feelings do you have around becoming a grandmother?
About becoming grandparents, it says, but I guess this is an announcement.
Yeah.
Because they asked this question.
So I guess we can talk about it.
We're free to tell. Yeah. We have a grandbaby on the way.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. I can't even tell you.
We're both beaming over here. If you can't tell by the smiles in our voices, we are so excited about becoming grandparents. I have no worries about that making me sound old because I already know how old I am.
Yeah, well, and we've had a fun process of trying to figure out what our names will be, because most of our names have been given to us. This is the opportunity to choose our names.
Right. So we've had some fun discussions about that, and it brings in family traditions and,
Yeah, cultural background.
cultural, names and stuff like that. So that's been fun, but that's just about us.
Yeah.
I mean, to see our children become parents is just like overwhelming.
Yeah, that's all. I can just sigh. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, so we've heard from our friends who are a little farther down the road that it's the greatest thing ever because we just got finished answering what we regret about our own parenting.
Yeah.
So we get to love this new family member without the same burden of responsibility.
Yeah, someone else is in charge of the fear.
Yeah, somebody else gets to decide what they eat and if they cross the road or not, and we just get to follow their instructions and love the child. And I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm going to have all those little pink and white peppermints that my grandparents gave me all the time.
Choking hazard.
No. Well, they'll be old enough to have a peppermint. But I think I did have some thoughts of like growing edge for me. As I think about being a grandfather it's weird, but I feel like there's more sense of spiritual responsibility. Like my grandparents were prayer warriors for the generations and kind of the top order of family life and family spiritual life. And so feeling a little bit of pressure there to be I know it sounds silly because I should be responsibly spiritually as parents, but there feels something different about grandparents. And I guess it might be I have a glimpse of seeing the big picture across the generations that then leads to that response.
Yeah, so I've had those same thoughts because, in my family tradition too, my grandparents prayed for everybody by name every day. And it kind of moves us really solidly into that role of the patriarch and me. I mean, we have prayed for our kids and our future in-laws and all of that, but it does feel like that responsibility of and just new people to care for and love and worry about. But we are committed to fulfilling that role that our parents and grandparents had of praying for all the family members and being concerned about their spiritual well-being as well as just their physical well-being.
And caring for all of them and communicating that from the generations
and helping
down.
them know. I mean, a lot, my mom and some other people in my family were greatly influenced spiritually by their grandparents. And that's exciting too, to help in that communicating just from all the years of experience we have of seeing God's work, of letting them know how much they're loved no matter what happens in their life and getting to be part of passing that message on.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Back to my very first response. I'm so excited. So now the last few questions are about dreams, kind of future oriented to us. And, when you get to this age, I don't think about the future all that much.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, we used to do that. We used to, in our anniversaries, we'd look forward 10 years. And now we're just like, woohoo, we made another one.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
So if you could design, and so this is a strange question, but if you could design a dream home from the ground up, where would it be? What would it look like? And why? I mean, that's an interesting.
So I have some tension with this dream because I can totally imagine a dream house. I can imagine all the ways I want it to look and what I would want in it and around it. But I want it to be where my family is.
Yep.
And so it doesn't necessarily match with what I want. Because I think we'd both, and I'm pretty sure you're going to say this, you'd want it by the water somewhere. By the water. And for me, that's tropical. For you, it could be a lake. It could be,
Lake Michigan.
Yeah. But we both would probably like a view of water. I think I like I would like a gathering space. I don't care as much what it looks like. I would like clean open spaces, but mainly I would like a gathering space.
Yeah.
A big long table that we could invite lots of people to for holiday meals and
space for our extended family, our growing family,
bedrooms,
a gathering place.
Yeah. Outdoor space and, recreational things nearby,
Yeah.
but I don't want it to be far away from where they all live.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think it's not a specific place. It's where our people are. And the design of it would be for our people
Yeah.
to have them around.
Whatever that design is, I wouldn't, no matter how big it would be, I wouldn't want it to look showy. I'd want it to blend into the landscape.
We'd want it cozy and lived in.
Just like our house now.
Yeah. I mean, a dream home is really about where your people, for us, where our people are, and
Yeah, but
that
if
they
it-
all can be together
But also, yeah, if they can gather there.
Yeah.
I'd like it big enough for us all to gather.
and close enough for driving.
Exactly. There you go.
There you go. All right. If you could gain any skill, knowledge, ability, what would it be and what would you do with it? So I'm going to say mine first.
Okay.
I want to be an omniglot,
Omniglot.
speak all the languages.
Oh, you took mine.
I know. I wanted to say it first.
I've always said that. You know, when
I
people
know.
say, "Well, if you could choose a superpower, you know, invisibility or whatever," I've always said I would instantly be multilingual.
Yeah.
I would like to be able to speak all the languages in the world.
Initially, I thought that was the craziest superpower when you first said that. Like,
Oh, so you did steal. Maybe I did change your mind on something else.
and it's been traveling. So I get to speak internationally and have to have translators. And I'm so thankful for them. But it would be just be so amazing to be able to communicate to people in their language, in their love and understanding language.
Yeah.
I've grown into an appreciation of that and
Yeah.
really realizing the deficits I have to communicate what I want to them because of the language and even translation. I play with language and it doesn't come across through translation at all. So I kind of moved into that. Like the more I do this, the more valuable I see that. So that would be.
Well,
that
we
would
have
be
the
this.
same one.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, so one of the other reasons, because it says, what would you do with it? Besides just being able to communicate with people wherever in the language they best understand, I also love it when people assume I don't speak their language and talk
sneaky.
about you,
Yeah.
and then you get to just answer them in their language and take them by surprise. I think that would be fun too.
That makes sense. That's a little more nefarious.
I know, but
hey,
it would be fun.
Yeah. So this one I think is just fabulous. If you were an aquatic animal, what would you be and why? So there's a lot of what would we be and why, or what would we do and why, and where would we live and why. So I think they're like, why are you living in the Midwest? Don't you want to go somewhere else?
Maybe.
And
If you were an aquatic animal, so if you were an animal that lived in the water, what would it be?
Which is interesting because I feel like this child knows us because we both like the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a seal slash otter.
Oh, playful otter.
In ocean, it would be the seal. In the river system, it would be the otter. And playful, I can live both in and out of the water. There's an agility to it, and maybe they're misunderstood a little bit. That's why I would see myself as a seal slash otter.
Okay.
Maybe it's a slaughter.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can
mean,
see.
it
I can
fits.
see.
And
Yeah.
I would love just to float on my back and eat.
Yeah.
while
The
I'm floating.
otters who
Yeah,
just
that seems like that would be heaven.
yeah, that seems like it fits.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I would be an orca.
You would eat the seal.
well, see-
oh no.
Well, see, you have to think about when you're answering this question, what qualities are you thinking about? I'm thinking, how many predators do they have? Yeah, I've watched National Geographic. I see the seals get eaten. I see all the animals get eaten. I don't
man.
want to be running for my life all the time.
Do I need to feel threatened? Is that
No, this is completely separate from you.
Okay.
But my first thought was, oh my goodness, living in the ocean, they all get eaten by something. And I don't really want to be a shark because they never sleep.
No, but
that
you know
doesn't
what?
sound fun.
But we never stop moving, and sharks only live if they keep moving.
I know, but see, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, but that's our life.
I know, but I should stop.
But isn't an orca a shark? Or no, it's a whale.
It's called
a
a whale, but
mammal.
isn't in the dolphin family, kind of. Okay, so a couple reasons.
Okay.
Besides the fact that they don't have predators. Like if you look up other ocean animals, the orca is the predator.
Yeah.
I like to be the apex predator, I guess.
Okay.
I just don't like to be scared. I don't like to be running for my life. I don't like
good.
to be.
I like this.
I don't want to hide under rocks.
Okay. Fine.
I also thought, I like the sky more than I like the underground.
Yeah.
I need to see the sky. So
Yeah.
I thought, what aquatic animal at least peeks their head out.
Yeah.
And killer whales jump out of the water. They can see the sky if they want to, you know.
Let's just call them orcas. Why do they have to be killer whales?
Yeah, let's just go with orca because you seem scared
Yeah.
as the seal.
This is different. I like this.
Yeah.
It's a side
So-
of you I didn't see before.
Good. I'm glad I can still surprise
Oh,
you.
man, you can.
So another thing about orcas is that they live in tightly knit family groups.
No.
So, they have a
nice.
really nice community system.
Okay.
And their children never leave the family pod.
Oh, watch out, kids.
Yeah, it just sounds a very nice little structured family system. They have a community. So there's animals that are, like I thought about the octopus because they're so smart, but they always have to hide and they're very solitary and they
Yeah.
only live about 3 years.
Yeah. So, how do orcas mate for life?
I see where you're going with this.
Okay. Anyway.
Yes, they stay in their family
In their
pods,
family
but
pods,
they're
okay.
also their head is the female.
right.
Matriarchal, I think.
Huh, okay.
I think.
All right.
I don't know everything about the orca.
Let's move on to the last
But
question.
I just want to say the one thing I don't like. I thought this was a funny question, but I got more into it than you would think, obviously. But the only thing that I don't like about the possibility of being an orca is that I was thinking of an animal that would live only in tropical waters, and the orcas often live in cold water. But I think they don't mind it.
No, I think they probably are made for that.
Maybe.
Yeah. The child that asked this was very specific. What are your personal goals? And emphasize personal goals for the next 10 or 20 years. So not couple goals, but for you, Tara, what are your goals for the next 10 to 20 years?
Yeah, that's a big question. And this is the last question.
This is
so
it.
if you're getting tired of this, this is
we're
going to wrap
almost
it up.
done.
We're almost
We'll be
there.
short. We have no goals. We're happy.
Yeah. So so my personal goals, like you said, we used to be more intentional about really setting goals together. And we haven't had as many milestones we need to meet that are in our control in the last season of our life. But I would say personally, I would like to get back into a good exercise routine. I was getting really
Buff.
a good routine. Well, really in shape right before COVID hit. I mean, all leading up to that. And then these last however many, 4 years that it's been, have really thrown my routine in this. I've been working harder than ever in an unpredictable job. So my routine is all messed up and I would really like to feel back in shape. And also at this age and with a grandchild coming, we need to be able to be like your agile otter.
Yeah.
We need to be able to get up and down off the floor and stay healthy and, able to travel.
Without grunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a personal goal.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and usually if I put my mind to it, I can do that. But that we probably should do together.
All right.
I also would like to be available for my kids and grandkids, but still travel.
Yep.
So find that balance and being available for our family and able to come to them, but also still have some of our travel things in there.
Yep.
And since I'm sort of changing my work balance and moving more to training and teaching and less on-call work, I'm hoping to write more, use that creative side of my brain.
Yeah, for me, the professional side is trying to get out of leadership positions and write and speak more and do that both domestically and internationally, and then travel to see our grandkids. Us having a healthy lifestyle. I put us, I know it's supposed to be me, but I'm a social exerciser. So if it's just me, I'm going to watch TV.
Exactly.
and maybe we burn some calories watching TV.
No, I don't think so.
No, probably not. Well, these were the questions our kids had to ask us that they were curious about, but haven't asked before.
Right. So we hope you learned something.
We did.
We laughed and we cried, and
Yeah.
and we'll think about this again in another 10 years.
Yeah. We'll talk with you soon.